There is an invisible difference between those who accumulate wealth and those who simply work their entire lives. That difference does not begin with money. It does not begin with talent, and certainly not with luck. It begins with a silent choice, repeated every single day. Andrew Carnegie was born poor, very poor. Before becoming one of the richest men in history, he worked in a cotton factory, changing bobbins for long hours as a child. Later, he became a telegraph messenger. Low wages, hard labor, a seemingly limited future. But something set him apart. It wasn't social status. It wasn't inheritance. It was mindset. Carnegie understood a truth that most people ignore. Wealth is the accumulated consequence of daily decisions, not a single big moment. Most people wait for the big event, the big opportunity, the big investment, the big deal. But the wealthy build their empire in the invisible, in the small choices no one sees. While many of his co-workers use the little money they earn for immediate comfort, Carnegie made a different choice. He invested in learning. He attended free libraries, read everything he could about business, economics, leadership, and industrial technology. He wasn't just working. He was preparing. There is a question that separates trajectories. Does this bring me closer to or further from the wealth I want to build? That question, asked daily, shapes destinies. The daily choice that defines who becomes rich is not just about spending or saving. It is about identity. Do you act like a consumer or like a builder? Consumers live in the immediate present. Builders think in terms of capital. Carnegie learned early how to turn income into assets. When he started earning more money, he did not raise his lifestyle at the same pace. He raised his investment standard. He invested in railroads, then in steel. And when he realized steel would be the future of American infrastructure, he made a massive strategic bet on the steel industry. That was not luck. It was vision built through years of observation, reading, and discipline. While many sought security, he sought calculated expansion. Here is the crucial point. Wealth is not just about earning more. It is about keeping more, multiplying more, and reinvesting more. The daily choice is between consumption and construction, between looking rich and becoming rich, between immediate comfort and long-term growth. Carnegie understood something few understand. Money is a tool, not a trophy. He did not use money to prove social value. He used money to generate more money. And that requires tolerance for discomfort. Many want wealth, but cannot endure. Giving up immediate pleasures, studying when they are tired, taking calculated risks, saying no to distractions. Carnegie made decisions based on future return, not present emotion. That is the daily choice. When you wake up, you choose. React to the day, or plan the day. Consume random content, or study something that increases your competence. Spend to relieve anxiety, or invest to reduce future insecurity. Small decisions, massive impact. Another fundamental principle Carnegie practiced was surrounding himself with strategically superior people. He understood that no one builds an empire alone. He hired people smarter than himself in technical areas. He delegated. He structured systems. He built strong teams. The daily choice here is ego or growth. Do you prefer to be right or to evolve? People who become rich make unpopular decisions consistently. Carnegie sold his company to J.P. Morgan for a colossal sum at the time, becoming one of the richest men on the planet. But that sale only happened because he spent decades building real value. Value precedes wealth. Most people want results before the process. Carnegie invested heavily in operational efficiency. He reduced costs, automated processes, constantly pursued competitive advantage. The question guiding his actions was not, how much am I earning today? But how do I increase my structural advantage? That changes everything. Those who think structurally build wealth. Those who think only about the current month survive. There is also a deep psychological point. Wealth requires intolerance for disorder. Carnegie analyzed numbers, production, margins. He did not operate blindly. He measured everything. Ordinary people ignore personal numbers. They don't know how much they spend. They don't know how much they invest. They don't know how much they could be accumulating. But those who want wealth turn clarity into discipline. The daily choice is to face financial reality or avoid it. Avoidance generates anxiety. Confrontation generates strategy. Another silent decision, patience. Carnegie did not become rich overnight. He spent years building, adjusting, failing, recalculating. Modern culture wants shortcuts, but true wealth requires a long horizon. And here is an uncomfortable truth. Getting rich is not technically difficult. It is emotionally difficult because it requires consistency when there is no applause, discipline when no one is watching, maintaining strategy even when progress seems slow. Carnegie understood that the market rewards those who stay in the game long enough for compound effect to do its work. Compound effect is not only financial, it is behavioral. Accumulated discipline becomes reputation. Accumulated reputation becomes opportunity. Accumulated opportunity becomes wealth. And it all begins with a daily choice. Today, are you building assets or just paying bills? Are you developing rare skills or just completing tasks? Are you expanding your strategic vision or living on autopilot? The difference between those who build wealth and those who do not is not the starting point. It is repetition. The repetition of decisions aligned with growth. Later in life, Carnegie wrote about the importance of philanthropy and purpose. He donated much of his fortune to education in public libraries. He believed wealth carried responsibility. But before giving, he had to build. And to build, he had to choose, every day, the long term. The final question is not about Andrew Carnegie. It is about you. Are your daily habits aligned with the identity of someone who builds wealth? Or are they aligned with the identity of someone who merely maintains stability? Wealth does not begin in a bank account. It begins in the invisible decision you make when no one is watching. And that decision is daily. If you would like, I can continue going deeper into the mental, strategic, and financial principles that shaped Carnegie's trajectory. There is a silent pattern that almost no one notices when studying great figures like Andrew Carnegie. They did not make decisions based on mood. They made decisions based on direction. Direction is different from motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Direction is structured. Carnegie operated with strategic clarity. He knew which sector he wanted to dominate. He knew which competitive advantage he needed to build. He knew industrial scale was the path. Most people decide their day based on feelings. The wealthy decide based on objectives. This is another invisible daily choice. Do you react to what you feel, or act based on what you planned? Carnegie had an obsession with efficiency. He analyzed every stage of steel production. If a process could be done 3% cheaper, he studied how. If a supplier was 2% more efficient, he negotiated. 3% today, 5% tomorrow, 10% per year. It seems small, but accumulated advantage becomes dominance. Wealth rarely comes from a single, giant leap. It is born from repeated micro-advantages. Now think about your routine. Do you improve 1% per day in your main skill? Do you increase your income potential every year? Do you systematically reduce financial waste? Or do you keep everything stable? Prolonged stability rarely generates wealth. Carnegie also understood the power of leverage. Leverage is not just debt. It is using systems, people, and technology to multiply results. He did not work alone in the mill. He structured companies, created processes, delegated operations. The daily choice here is clear. Do you want to be indispensable? Or do you want to be a strategist? People who remain trapped in constant operations rarely accumulate large fortunes because their time is limited. Carnegie built structures that produced wealth even when he was not physically present. That is the real game. Trading time for money keeps you busy. Building systems creates financial freedom, but that requires vision beyond the immediate. There is another crucial point that almost no one talks about. Carnegie knew when to exit. When he sold his company to J.P. Morgan, he was not just closing a deal. He was ending a strategic cycle at its peak. Many entrepreneurs fail because they become emotionally attached to what they built. The daily choice here is between ego and rationality. Are you making decisions based on pride or based on numbers? The wealthy think in probabilities. The poor think in hope. Carnegie evaluated macroeconomic trends. He observed railroad expansion, urbanization, infrastructure demand. He positioned his capital where structural growth was already in motion. That leads to another invisible decision. Are you paying attention to trends shaping the future, or simply repeating the past? Every generation has its steel. In Carnegie's time, it was steelmaking. Today, it may be technology, energy, artificial intelligence, digital assets, specialized education. But the principle is the same. Identify structural growth. Enter before the masses. Stay long enough. Another determining factor was his ability to withstand pressure. Building wealth involves criticism. It involves risk. It involves moments of intense uncertainty. Carnegie faced financial crises, aggressive competition, and economic instability. The difference? He did not retreat in the face of normal volatility in the game. Most people abandon strategy at the first discomfort. The daily choice that defines wealth is maintaining discipline even under stress. There's also a deep psychological dimension, tolerance for delayed gratification. Carnegie did not live to appear successful. He lived to become structurally dominant. Today, many seek external signals. A new car, constant travel, the appearance of prosperity. But appearance is not wealth. Real wealth is silent at the beginning. It grows while no one notices. Another invisible choice. Do you prioritize immediate liquidity or long-term growth? Carnegie aggressively reinvested profits. He understood that idle capital is lost opportunity. Most people increase their income but raise their lifestyle in the same proportion or even more. The result? No real accumulation. Wealth requires margin. Margin between what you earn and what you consume. Margin between impulse and decision. Margin between emotion and strategy. Carnegie cultivated margin in every area. And there is something even deeper. He had a philosophy of purpose. Later, he wrote the Gospel of Wealth, arguing that the rich had a social responsibility to give back to society. He funded thousands of public libraries. But observe the correct sequence. First, he built competence. Then he built capital. Only then did he distribute impact. Many want impact before building the foundation. The daily choice is to strengthen fundamentals. Without fundamentals, any growth collapses. Now comes the most uncomfortable question. If someone analyzed your habits over the next 5 years, would they predict wealth or stagnation? Because wealth is not a surprise. It is predictable when behaviors are predictable. If you invest consistently, learn continuously, expand your strategic network, control expenses, take calculated risks, reinvest gains, the result tends toward growth. But if you consume without planning, avoid numbers, look for shortcuts, act on impulse, abandon strategies at the first obstacle, the result is also predictable. Carnegie was not special because he was born different. He became different through repeated decisions. Every single day. The daily choice that defines who becomes rich is simple in theory. Think like an investor. Act like a builder. Persist like a strategist. But simple does not mean easy, because it requires defeating yourself daily. And that is the real battle. So let's go deeper into what truly transforms theory into practice. Because admiring Andrew Carnegie's journey is easy. The hard part is structuring a life that operates under the same principles. There is an invisible model behind wealth creation that we can break down into strategic layers. First layer, gain clarity. Carnegie didn't just want to earn well. He wanted to dominate an industry. That difference completely changes daily behavior. Those who want stability seek security. Those who want dominance seek competitive advantage. The daily choice is, are you playing to survive or to lead? Second layer, strategic specialization. Carnegie did not try to dominate 10 industries at once. He focused on steel when he realized that U.S. railway and urban expansion would create massive structural demand. He understood something fundamental. Wealth tends to concentrate in those who solve problems at scale. Today, that means developing skills that are rare, are scalable, have high future demand. The daily question becomes, am I becoming common, or am I becoming hard to replace? Third layer, aggressive reinvestment. When profits grew, Carnegie did not stabilize. He reinvested in modernization, technology, operational efficiency. He bought competitors, improved processes, reduced costs. He understood the power of vertical integration, controlling multiple stages of the production chain to maximize margins. Translated to today, do you control only your income or multiple sources? Do you rely on a single skill or build parallel assets? Fourth layer, anti-fragile mindset. Crises were not exceptions. They were part of the environment. Carnegie operated knowing volatility is normal in capitalism. While many panic, strategists analyze. The powerful daily choice is react emotionally or respond strategically. The difference between reaction and response determines loss or growth. Fifth layer, control of internal narrative. Most people live trapped in past narratives. I wasn't born with opportunity. I don't have connections. I don't have capital. Carnegie was born without capital, without influence, without structural privilege. What he had was intellectual discipline. He read obsessively, observed leaders, learned from mentors. He replaced excuses with preparation. The brutally honest daily decision is, are you justifying or equipping yourself? Now let's go deeper. Wealth is concentrated energy, and concentrated energy requires focus. Distraction is the invisible tax of the middle class. Carnegie operated with near-obsessive focus in steel once he chose that field. Today, distractions are infinite. Social media, constant entertainment, digital comparison. The daily choice is simple but uncomfortable. Consume distraction or produce value. There is also the time factor. Time is non-renewable capital. Ordinary people sell time to pay expenses. Builders invest time to generate assets. Practical question. If you analyzed your last week, how many hours were invested in real growth? Technical learning? Financial strategy? Building something scalable? Or just routine maintenance? Another invisible decision, association standard. Carnegie surrounded himself with more experienced entrepreneurs, investors, and industrialists. He understood proximity shapes vision. Environment influences ambition. The daily choice is, seek challenging environments or remain comfortable. Now let's touch on something few discuss. Wealth requires tolerance for strategic solitude. Decisions that build assets are often misunderstood at first. Saving while others spend. Investing while others fear. Studying while others rest. This creates temporary distance. But builders accept that price. Carnegie did not seek immediate social approval. He sought future structural advantage. And here is a decisive point. What do you value more, approval or progress? There is also emotional discipline regarding money. For many, money is a symbol of status. For Carnegie, it was a tool for expansion. When you turn money into identity, you spend to prove. When you turn money into a tool, you invest to multiply. That distinction shapes decades. Now imagine applying all this practically. Every day you could study 30 minutes of your primary strategic skill. Review personal financial numbers. Invest part of your income before spending. Build something that generates future income. Expand your relevant network. Analyze market trends. Small actions. Repeated for years. It sounds simple, but most do not do it. Because daily choice requires discipline when there is no urgency. And that is the paradox. People only change when pain becomes urgent. The wealthy act before pain appears. Carnegie did not wait for crisis to improve efficiency. He improved while profiting. That is preventive, not reactive thinking. Now comes the final question of this section. If you repeat the exact same habits for the next 5 years, where will you be financially? Because wealth is not an event. It is the predictable sum of repeated decisions. And the daily choice continues tomorrow. So let's move to an even more strategic level. Up to this point, we've talked about daily decisions. Now we need to talk about life architecture. Because the truth is hard. Consistent wealth is not born only from good habits. It is born from a well-structured personal system. And that is exactly what Andrew Carnegie built throughout his life. He did not depend on motivation. He depended on structure. Structure defeats emotion. Most people try to change behavior through willpower. But willpower is limited. Wealth builders create environments that make the right decisions automatic. Let's break this down. First, personal financial system. Carnegie deeply understood numbers, costs, margins, projections, expansion. Today, many want wealth but avoid looking at their bank statements. There is a silent daily choice. Face the numbers or live on assumptions. Those who build wealth measure everything. Revenue, expenses, margin, investment capacity, profitability. Without metrics, there is no strategy. Second, intellectual growth system. Carnegie was a voracious reader. He studied biographies, economics, industry, politics. He understood the macro environment. An uncomfortable question. Is your knowledge growing at the same speed as your age? Or did you stop evolving intellectually after school? Modern wealth requires constant updating. Markets change. Technologies change. Opportunities migrate. Those who do not learn become obsolete. The daily choice is to reserve time for mental expansion, even when it is not mandatory. Third, strategic positioning system. Carnegie did not just work hard. He positioned himself. He entered the railroad sector early because he recognized the structural transformation happening in the United States. He did not compete where everyone was competing. He competed where growth was being born. Today the question is, are you entering saturated markets impulsively or studying where the next expansion will occur? Those who observe trends early build exponential advantage. Fourth, emotional system. This is the point almost no one talks about. Wealth requires emotional stability because major financial decisions generate fear. Expansion creates risk. Crises create pressure. Carnegie faced recessions, intense competition, and public attacks, but he maintained structural focus. Now be honest. When something goes wrong financially, do you learn or panic? Emotional reaction determines whether you build or retreat. Fifth, legacy system. In his later years, Carnegie wrote the Gospel of Wealth, defending that money should be used to elevate society. He funded public libraries, universities, and educational institutions. But notice the order. First, he built competence. Then he built capital. Finally, he built impact. Many want purpose before building a foundation. But sustainable impact requires solid financial structure. Now let's go deeper into the psychology of daily choice. There are two versions of you competing every day. The immediate version and the strategic version. The immediate version wants comfort. The strategic version wants growth. The immediate version seeks quick pleasure. The strategic version accepts delayed gratification. The immediate version spends to relieve tension. The strategic version invests to reduce future tension. This battle does not happen once. It happens every day. Carnegie won this battle thousands of times before becoming a billionaire. No one sees those invisible victories. Everyone only sees the final result. Another critical point. Wealth is built in silence. While many display consumption, builders display private discipline. And here is something powerful. You do not need to think about becoming extremely wealthy right now. You only need to win today strategically. If today you learn something valuable, invest something consistently, avoid an impulsive expense, plan with clarity, build something scalable, you are already on the path. The difference between those who accumulate wealth and those who do not is behavioral mathematics. Consistent behavior generates accumulated capital. Accumulated capital generates expanded opportunity. Expanded opportunity generates multiplication, but everything returns to the same question. What decision are you repeating daily? Because repeated decisions become identity. Identity becomes pattern. Pattern becomes financial destiny. And here is the most important part. You do not need to be born like Carnegie, but you must think like a strategist. Wealth does not begin in the market. It begins in the mind. And the daily choice continues tomorrow.